Okay, good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay due to technical difficulties. Okay, Perek Ches Mishna Yud Aleph. Va'al Zu Va'al Zoi. This case and that case, referring back to the cases before that we had with the barrel of Truma wine that was tar, that's in the upper reservoir of the wine press. It broke, and the water and the wine is now flowing into the bottom reservoir that has the chulin wine that is tamei. In that case, where the question was, all you had was the vessels that were impure, to be able to save the truma oil, the truma wine from going into the wine in the bottom and making it meduma and making it tamei and not be able to use it for anything. Or the case we had yesterday of the barrel of truma wine oil that spilled over and it's going to be absorbed to the ground and lost, whether you could use and you don't have enough time to bring pure vessels for the sake of saving at least the revius of the oil as by the wine. That there, in both those cases, Belezer said that you may not go, that you may not take the tummy utensils and directly catch the either the truma wine, the truma oil, and make them tummy in order to save what's on the bottom. In both cases, our Mishna now says, as we were mentioning until now, but in both cases, Rabbi Yeshua said, this is not the truma that I am warned or that I am exhorted to make sure it doesn't become tamei. It's only from eating. Meaning in both the cases, the problem, Rabbi Yeshua's whole point is in both cases, let's say in the case of the wine is going to flow, if you're going to let it go, the wine is going to flow into the chulin on the bottom and it's become tamei anyway. And therefore, since it become tamei anyway, there's no prohibition against allowing it to become, about making it tamei. The prohibition is eating it because it becomes tamei. But it's not, there's no more prohibition about making it tamei. So again, let's just review. In the case of the barrel of wine, the wine from the truma tahira wine is flowing down. It's going to go into the tamei chulin wine, become tamei, become meduma, and become useless. So Rabbi Yeshua says, look, that's the kind of situation where, since it's going to become tamei, it's already like it's tamei, and therefore there's no problem using the tamei utensil to catch it, which will actually make it actual tamei in order to save the bottom. Rabbi Yeshua's whole point is, this is not the kind of situation, that truma that's basically going to go into the chulin that's tamei and become tamei is not the truma that I have a prohibition against making it tamei. Since I'm not going to be able to eat it anyway because it's going to become tamei, therefore I look at everything as if it's tamei already. It hasn't actually become tamei, but it's going to become tamei. So that means that I know I'm not going to be able to eat it. In that situation, there is no more prohibition of making it tamei. I can go ahead and take the tamei vessels and directly catch it and directly make it tamei because they become tamei anyway. And therefore, since I'm not going to be able to eat it, there's going to be a prohibition from eating it. I don't have a prohibition anymore of making it impure either. Similarly, in the case by the oil, where the oil tipped over and it's being absorbed, there the issue is not that it's going to become tamei, but I'm not going to be able to eat it because it's going to absorb into the ground. So according to Yeshua, anything that is in a situation where it's not going to be edible, there is no more prohibition of making it tamei. Either because it's going to be lost, or it's going to become tamei. It's as if it's already lost, as if it's already tamei, even though it actually hasn't happened yet. And therefore, I am allowed to take the tamei vessels and catch the wine, try to save the oil. There's no problem there. Okay. Ubal tatama ketzad. So where will there be a case by Rabbi Yeshua? Rabbi Yeshua would say, where you have such a situation, where in what case does Rabbi Yeshua say, or this is what Yeshua is talking about, tamei ketzad, where is the prohibition against contaminating the truma oil? What would be a case for that? Now, again, we had previously a case that if I could save a revius of the truma wine, the truma oil, and save it and let it remain tar. Meaning, if I can go get utensils that are tar and catch it, then I have to do that. But he's basically creating a case. He wants to know where would there. What Rabbi Shua wants to say here: where is there a case where I'd have the prohibition of making it tamei, even though seemingly I have the same situation that's going to become tamei. It's going to become inedible. So here's the case. If a person was traveling from place to place, and he has these loaves of truma with him, and they're tar. So a idol worshiper says to him, idolater says to him, give me one of them. I want one of them. And I know I'm going to make it tamei. But if you don't give me one, I'm going to make them all tamei. Meaning this guy is a little bit too smart for himself. He knows that the Rabbanan made a law regarding him that we have to assume that because he's an idolater, that he has become impure in some way or another. Let's say he became a zav, has a certain kind of emission from his body that makes him impure. He's going to be, if he's a zav, he's impure. If he touches the truma, it would make it impure. So even if we don't know that he actually is impure, we consider impure. And rabbinically, if he were to touch the truma, it would make it impure. So here's the case. The guy says, look, give me one loaf. I'm going to make it tamei. We all know that. If you don't give me one loaf, I'm going to touch all of them. I'm going to make them all tamei. Okay, that's what he says. If not, I'm going to metame them all. And make them all impure. Rabbi Eliezer says, Yitame eskula. Let him make them all tamei. Do not give him one and allow him to make it tamei. Rabbi Shua says, Yaniach lafanav achas mehen ala sela. Leave one of them on a rock for him to take. So what's going on here is the following. All right, we have this case. The guy says, give me one, which means, and we know, and by giving him one, he's going to make it tamei. If not, I'm going to make them all tamei. So here we have a problem. Here we have a situation where either one becomes tamei or all of them become tamei. So what do you do then? So Rabbi Eliezer, so again, we have a machlokes of an argument, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Eliezer is more strict about this than Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Eliezer says, do not give him one and let it become tamei. So that means like this. That means that if you say, even according to Rabbi Eliezer, if you say to the guy, there's a whole basket there, there's a whole basket there of loaves of truma, and he says, give me one, or else I'm going to make it all tamei. So you can tell him, go take. Let him take it. You let it tell him. Rabbi Eliezer says, as I said, Rabbi Eliezer holds that the Jew is not allowed to select a loaf of truma. He can tell an idolater to take one, but he cannot single out one for him. According to Rabbi Eliezer, you cannot single out a loaf. You can't say, take this loaf. You can tell him, go ahead, take. Or you basically let him do it. But for you to single out one for him, basically for you to participate in giving him one, Rabbi Eliezer says he can't do that. And if that's what he demands that you give him one, then let him just carry out his threat and make the whole thing tamei. But if he'll be okay with just, say so, go ahead and take one. Go ahead and take. That Rabbi Eliezer agrees is okay. Rabbi Shua says you could single out one for him. Now, Rabbi Shua's wording is, Yaniach lefanav achas men ala sela, leave one on a rock for him, which means you will not take the loaf of bread and directly hang it to him. That Rabbi Shua agrees you cannot do. That is directly making it tamei. That is where Rabbi Shua says, where am I still prohibited? Where do I still have a warning to make sure not to make it tamei, even though it's not going to be edible? That is where I'm handing him the loaf of bread. I can't hand him the loaf of bread. That directly allowing it to become tamei, I can't do. But to single out a loaf, to take out a loaf and put it on a rock for him, okay, here's one for you. And that satisfies him, that you can do. Rabbi Eliezer says you cannot single out one loaf for him. According to Rabbi Yeshua, you could single out a loaf. If that's what it takes to make sure it doesn't take everything else tamei, you could single out the loaf. And even though he's going to make that loaf tamei, he says you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to go ahead and let it become tamei, but you cannot hand it to him. You can't directly give it to him, hand it to him, because that already is very direct to making it tamei, and therefore Rabbi Shua says that you may not do. A prohibition against being kosein. So we'll see what that means. Shenemar, as it states, you shall not have someone, they translate this here in English as kosem ksamim, as one who practices divination. So what does that mean? The kaisim who, a person who is a kais, a person who performs this kesem, what does he do? He has a staff in his hand and he bangs the ground many times. And he makes these bizarre screams. He becomes lost in thoughts. And he gazes at the ground for a lengthy period of time until he becomes like an epileptic, when he collapses. And then he tells the future. So that's what this person's doing. He goes through this whole thing, works himself up into a tizzy until he faints, and then and it's as if he's had this, he's now become privy to a vision of the future, and he now tells the futures. He tells the future. That's a kaisim. That is a person who's practicing divination. Now there's another form. There's some who do this with sand or with stones. Or he takes a leather belt and throws it on the ground. Or he grabs his staff in his hand. And he says, should I go or not? And another, he holds the staff in his hand, looks at the staff, and he decides, okay, by looking at it or by having this in his hand, he's going to make a decision. Should he go or not? Or he takes this leather strap and throws it to the ground and somehow decides based on that he's gonna do something or not. Or he uses stones or sand, which I'm assuming there also means he throws it to the ground. But he does these kinds of acts, and based on that, he decides, so to speak, his future. He decides what he's going to do. All this is included in kesem, in this prohibition of kesem, of this divination. Anybody who does any of these things mentioned above has transgressed this. But if you inquire of a kaisem, that's forbidden midrabanan. You want to perform kesem ksamim, it's something that's prohibited to do. If there's somebody who does it and you ask him, that is not a Torah prohibition, but it's a rabbinic prohibition. Applies in all times, in all places, by men and by women. Have a wonderful day.